is a journey, not a destination. And this took me a really, really long time to realize in my own experience. And I think a lot of people can relate to this because so often we are sold this idea of healing and what it means to finally fix yourself and be rid of your problems and your flaws and have that amazing moment where you can finally say, I'm healed, I'm good, now I'm ready to be in the relationship, now I'm ready to do this, now I can finally be happy and live my life. But that's so wrong. I've come to realize there's no moment that anybody can ever say that they are fully healed because we are constantly evolving and expanding, which means there are constantly new parts of ourselves that are growing and being created, and thus there are going to be new challenges that are thrown at us and new triggers that we are going to experience. And if we fall into this trap of thinking, well, I should have been healed by now, we're really robbing ourselves of fully being able to grow and develop into the highest version of ourselves because we are not allowing ourselves to see, actually, I am a continuous work in progress. And don't get it twisted, okay? I'm the last person that is ever going to suggest that you are this continuous self-improvement project. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need to improve yourself every single day if that does not serve you. If that is something that gets you excited, if that is what encourages you to get out of bed in the morning, meeting your full potential, seeing how much you can grow. By the way, I'm referencing myself because that's my mindset. By all means, go for it. But that is not a necessity. That is not something you have to fulfill in order to be happy or in order to be worthy of living a good life. When I talk about healing being this continuous journey, it's really just about living your life in whichever way makes you happy, but making sure you're checking in with yourself along the way just to do the best favor for yourself to make sure actually you're not standing in the way of any blessings. Because let me tell you, one thing unhealed parts of you is going to do is push people away, push opportunities away, make you feel like you're less than when you're really not. And it's really about nipping those areas in the bud so that you can thrive. And for that reason, in today's episode of Self-Obsessed, Season 4, Episode 3, I'm going to be sharing all of my biggest lessons on my self-growth journey that have helped me grow into a healthier, more healed version of myself. And before I get right into it, be sure to check out all of the links below this podcast episode or in the description if you're watching this on video on YouTube, where you'll find all of my personal links. I actually upload every single day on all of my social media platforms. That's Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I also have 2 other YouTube channels aside from my podcast where I upload different types of self-development content. Basically, everything I do in different formats is all about helping you become the best version of myself. And that also includes my book that recently came out, Buy Yourself the Damn Flowers. It's available worldwide on Amazon, and it's the ultimate guide to leveling up, healing, having a reawakening, mastering self-love, and really deepening the connection and relationship you have with yourself so that everything in your life, including relationships, your lifestyle, your mental health, can flourish and become even more abundant. So definitely check it out if that interests you. But for now, let's get right into it. The first lesson that I learned on my healing journey that transformed so much for me is the fact that you have to let go of the old in order to allow space for the new to come into your life. The thing is, healing and growth for me really go hand in hand. And I used to think, as long as I'm trying to think in a better way or improve my life, that's okay, that's good enough. And in many ways it can be, but you cannot gain all of the amazing things that this healing journey is going to give to you if you are still grasping onto old people, old environments, old things, old habits, because they are keeping you stuck in a place of your life where you were a previous version of yourself. And that previous version has not yet embarked on their healing journey. And I'll give you an example. There is so much evidence out there to suggest that when adults who are in a completely different phase of their life go back home to visit either their school friends, but especially their family, they get transported back into a time where they were living with their family, and therefore their behavioral patterns change. You could be so independent and you could be so confident and you've grown so much, but you go back to an old period of your life, right? In a similar environment, and all of a sudden, you're back to the previous version of yourself. You're arguing with your parents in the way that you used to. You're feeling a similar way about yourself. All of the feelings you have about your hometown or that environment start coming up again, even though you are in such a different part of your life and so much time has passed. And I think that really reflects as well within the healing journey. You cannot take certain people with you throughout your healing journey because they are simply not meant to go where you are going. And that's completely okay. I think we've been conditioned to feel badly about ourselves, or like we're some kind of villain because we cut relationships off and we cut ties, or we distance ourselves from people, when really that is literally the whole point. I don't know where this notion came from that we have to have these bonds and relationships forever. If something is not serving you, you are interrupting your healing process by allowing it to continuously eat at you and gain access to yourself, your energy, and your life. I'm not saying you have to cut everybody outside of your life just because they don't align with your values or your new choices you're making. But I am saying a lot of the times there needs to be a rearrangement, especially when you are in the transformation process. Like you are just on the cusp of getting to the next level of your life. And when you keep these people in your life that align with the old version of you, it's very easy for you to get sucked back into that, or to even lose sight of why you're on this journey. The harsh truth is, if you are committed to finding the newest version of yourself and the newest version of your life, you have to be able to at least take a break from the old things that evidently got you to a place in your life that you didn't want to be, or a version of yourself that you didn't want to be. I'm not saying it's anybody's fault. I'm not saying, you should blame anybody or be angry at them, but I'm saying you need to take a step back to be able to give yourself some distance and a chance to reflect on, actually, where do I want to go now? What kind of people are going to serve me at this point in my life? All of these other distractions and all of these other comforts that you've had before can hold you back from finding the true answer as to where you're supposed to go next. Maybe you're supposed to move to a different place. Maybe you're supposed to get a different job. Maybe you're supposed to think in a different way. My second lesson is to practice self-awareness. And this is the most vital part of the healing journey, because how are you ever fully going to know every detail of what you need to work on and what needs healing if you are not aware of the things in your life that are holding you back? If you are not aware of your own self-sabotaging behaviors, of your own limiting beliefs? Being self-aware is the key to everything. And if you feel uncomfortable by the darker parts of yourself or your shadow self, or the things that are holding you back, the mistakes you've made, then you are not fully being present in your healing journey, and you are also not giving yourself the best shot you've got. Healing is about bringing up all of those uncomfortable and difficult feelings to the surface and facing them head on. The second that you face them, the sooner you'll be able to process them. And then the second that you process them and you're over the icky feeling they give you, you can actually see the meaning behind them, or the lesson that was in them. And most importantly, the way that they are affecting you and showing up in your life, so that you can actually figure out the way forward to be able to prevent them from doing so in future, so that you can finally move on past those emotions, or past those experiences, or past those thoughts. And a really good example of this is when I started picking up books on relationships. Now, I actually used to be so against the notion of this, once again, which literally just reflects the unhealed part of myself. My unhealed part was the fact that I had an insecure attachment style. I was avoidantly attached, which meant that I was hyper independent. And independence is a great thing, but I was independent to the point that I really only ever thought that I needed myself, and I was pushing away such important, abundant relationships that could have really benefited and added value to my life, simply because I was scared and I didn't really know how to bring them into my life. And I didn't see the value in relationships, which is why I was such a big reader and I was always in the self-help aisle, but I was never gravitating towards relationships because I had never really validated them, or to allow myself to prioritize them. In a way, for me, I thought it was a weakness. I thought it was a waste of time, which is of course not a good, healthy, or secure way to be thinking. But the second that I faced that uncomfortable, ugly feeling face on, I could finally muster up the courage to go into a bookstore and pick up a book about relationships. And I picked this book up, it's called Detached, and I learned that I was avoidantly attached because I was never fully present in my negative thinking about relationships. I could never see that I was actually the problem. I thought relationships in general were the problem, but I was the one that was putting the negative meaning towards it. And once I allowed myself to be self-aware of that problem enough that I knew, okay, now I need to read a book to see how I'm acting, or to maybe call myself out on some things that I'm not fully realizing. And then guess what? Exactly that happened. And I learned so much about myself and so much about the mistakes I was making that I couldn't even clearly see myself. And then that allowed me to gain even more clarity and even more honesty about all of the things and parts of myself that I needed to work on in that area of my life, which obviously eventually transformed my life and got me into my first ever healthy relationship a few years ago with the most amazing partner who I now live with. And it made such a huge change, just knowing that I had this ugly feeling, but still exploring it, still immersing myself in it to see what lessons were hiding within it. What I'm trying to say is self-awareness in your healing journey is about being super aware and honest about the way that you are standing in your own way and stopping yourself from making progress. If that is something that you are so deeply against, you owe it to yourself to explore that. A lot of the time, the reason that we hate things or we put negative energy onto things or we judge things is actually because we're deeply triggered by them. Really explore, why does that bother you? Because let me tell you, 9 times out of 10, the thing bothers you because you know you would be rejected for acting like that in your own life. Let's say you are really, really bothered and you just think it's so distasteful when people show more skin when they are dressing themselves or they are immodest. Why does that need to be a really big deal? And a lot of the time you'll see that, oh, it's because I was judged so harshly for the way that I dressed when I was growing up. And then you internalize those beliefs and you start to project them onto others because you can't show your self-love for being that way or dressing that way. And so if you see someone that goes against those beliefs or against your conditioning of what is good versus bad, then you project that negativity onto them that you were shown yourself. If you were told or if you were shown that you are not going to receive validation or praise or love or respect for doing something, you're going to find it increasingly difficult to offer that up to people who are doing that thing that you would have been rejected or scolded for. And that's why it's so important that at a certain age, you need to stop just accepting the information you've been given and actually stop questioning. Is this right? Does this serve my life? Does this align to my personal values? Instead of just continuously accepting other people's reactions and other people's opinions and living your life by that. On top of that, not only should you question how other people think and how other people respond, but also, how are you responding? And is that actually serving yourself? Why do I have this opinion? And is this making me more closed-minded? Is this shutting me off to things that could actually benefit my growth and healing and evolution? Self-awareness is literally the foundation of healing because you are now more mindful of everything that's going on within you, your feelings, your head, but also everybody around you. And you can really take a more unbiased view of what's the next best step to take forward. Lesson number 3 is to be content with who you are currently. So much of the time, I think the worst mistake that we can make with healing is thinking that we're not worthy of anything right now. Oh, but I have so much healing to do. I have so much learning to do, or I'm not quite there yet, or I'm still making these mistakes, or I'm still really bad and I make terrible relationship decisions. So what? The whole point of healing is to accept yourself, is to love yourself, is to make peace with yourself. If you are going to use healing as this decision in your head that it's only once I am fixed, it's only once I am perfect, it's only once I get rid of these problems can I feel better about myself, you are never going to be healed. In fact, you are just repeating the same old cycles of invalidating yourself and being cruel to yourself and robbing yourself of true love and acceptance. I think the best way to make so much progress on your healing journey is the second you start, show yourself kindness while you keep making the mistakes, while you keep wanting to go back to what no longer serves you. While yes, that's not the right thing to do, and while that's not the right direction to take in healing, good. Use those mistakes and use that kind of tension in your journey to be like, I'm going to pause, I'm going to be patient, and I'm going to give myself kindness in this moment of weakness. I'm going to show myself some love in this very normal human reaction that I am giving to immense change and evolution, which, by the way, is so brave and courageous of me to decide to take on in the first place. Go me. You know what I mean? There's such an easy transformation there rather than, I can't believe I'm not being consistent again, or why can't I ever do anything right? And what's wrong with me for wanting to go back to that person? No, you are human. Let's slow it down. Let's talk to ourselves. Let's do our shadow work. Let's turn this into something productive on now using this as a tool for more self-discovery. I know it's so easy to rush into that because the process of healing is so uncomfortable and so ugly to know that like I'm not quite where I need to be and I'm still not making the right decisions for myself. But by trying to rush through it and by trying to speed through it, or by hiding things away that you don't really want to look at, like getting to the deeper truth, you're still being unkind to yourself. And you are still going so many steps backwards in your healing journey because in doing that, you are telling yourself that you are an inconvenience, that you don't have that time and effort and energy for yourself. The same time and effort and energy, by the way, that you so freely give out to everybody else, your boss, your work, your colleagues, your peers, your friends, your acquaintances, your family members. When they're going through a rough time, when they need a favor, you're right there. But when you need to go on the journey to learn the lessons that are essentially going to make the rest of your life much easier, you want to rush through it. This is the time to slow down. This is the time to sit through the fact that it feels hard and that it's very, very long, because you are the greatest project that you are ever going to work on. And also when you start to become so much more present on your healing journey and you're like, actually, I like the way I am, or I'm appreciating all these little changes, or I'm being really kind to myself when I'm struggling on my healing journey, you are doing the work. Like, that is part of it. So there's no need to rush the process because every step on this journey has its purpose, and it's so very important. Lesson number 4, perfection is never the goal when it comes to healing. It's like what I said at the beginning of the podcast. When we think about healing, we think about fixing ourselves. We think about filling this hole. We think about never returning to this state of negative or uncomfortable emotions or situations ever again. But that is quite literally impossible. And let me tell you from experience, for every problem you are going to overcome, another one's going to come and replace it. And I know that might sound a little bit scary, but it's so good and it's so magical because with every problem that comes, so much growth comes with it. And let me tell you, I haven't always thought this way. I used to think life was so unfair. I thought I was the unluckiest person in the world. I didn't understand why I had more problems than everybody else. And now I'm like, oh my God, I get it. I always used to think, why have I got so many failed relationships at such a young age and my friends haven't even started dating? Oh, right. Because I wouldn't be able to make those YouTube videos that have millions of views. That's why. And then I wouldn't be able to have this career and I wouldn't be able to be a published author at the age of 23 years old. There is so much magic. And yes, that's what my journey looks like and yours is going to look different, but it's going to be equally as magical and abundant. And you're going to look back and you're going to think, thank God for the problems. So perfection shouldn't even be a goal. There's always going to be improvement and there's always going to be these amazing reflections of when you look back and you're like, oh my God, I've come so far. That's always going to be there. But the problems are also part of the gift that is healing and growing. It's such an inevitable part of it. You would not learn how to be self-aware or emotionally intelligent or even know what the word healing was if you didn't encounter problems first. And also, when you're always striving for perfection, it's so easy to be focused on the results, but I don't think the results are the purpose here. Yes, they are a nice addition, like healing your attachment style or learning how to set better standards to be in a healthier relationship or healing your relationship with food and then never having that really be a problem in your life again. But when you are overly fixated on the results, you miss out on all of the amazing daily wins and progress that you're making day by day, which are also contributing to growing your confidence and your self-love. So it's not so much about the result because it's every day that you're trying to work towards it, no matter what the result of each day is, that you are doing the thing, that you are showing up for yourself. Lesson number 5 is to figure out what your values are. I know so many people talk about, being value-based and knowing what your values are, but I know that's very generic advice, especially if you don't even really know what your values are. You've never actually explored that. Taking the time to reflect on what serves you and what fits into your values and what fits into your lifestyle is going to be a game changer because it gives you the quickest answer as to what is worth your energy and time and what is not, which is, helping you make the decision on what is your next step forward in life and where you should go and what people you should allow into your life and what opportunities you should say yes or no to. What truly drives you, what motivates you, what makes you want to get up in the morning? What is that thing that you really want that is going to fulfill you, that is going to add something? That is the thing that will tell you if your energy is truly aligned and in all of the right places that it should be. And for those of you who need some help with this, your values are really just your personal judgment on what is important in life to you and what isn't. And everybody is going to have a super different answer to this. Like, a lot of people assume that people generally want the same things, but it couldn't be more wrong. Like, I just moved to London and I absolutely love it. I love living in a big city. And you would think that that's the attractive, desirable answer for most people, right? Like, live in the big, amazing capital city. There are some people out there that could not think of anything worse. And that's good for them because then that means they know what environments fill up their cup and what is aligned to them and their values and then therefore their life path and where they are meant to get to. If they didn't figure that out, then they would be blindly following this path of, well, everybody goes here or everybody thinks this is the right decision to make. And then therefore just enabling their misery in the process. That is why it's so important to tune in to yourself to figure out actually what is personally important to me rather than everybody else, because oftentimes we internalize or we assume that we think the same way as everybody because, that's the right way to think. But that is BS. There is no right way to think, okay? Figuring out your own values takes reflection and paying a lot of attention to your behavior. And most importantly, where you draw energy from and what moments you've been happiest or most fulfilled in. And once you spend some time doing that, I feel like life just flows so much easier and more effortlessly. It's like this internal compass that is constantly telling you which way to go. And no matter how many times other people will try to pull you in different directions, you're not going to go there. You're not going to succumb to peer pressure. You're not going to compare yourself to others or feel FOMO because you know what you are about and where you need to go. And nothing can sway you from that. On top of that, knowing your values helps in your healing journey so much because it keeps you accountable. For example, if you figured out, actually living a healthy lifestyle is really important to me, that is exactly what you are going to prioritize. When you know that that is a core part of who you are, that is such an important part of the life that you are going to live, then you are going to schedule in the eating well and the fitness classes, because that's what most aligns to you. It's no longer about like following these habits or doing these things because you're supposed to do them. And I couldn't relate more. I used to force myself to the gym all the time because I thought, well, this is what I'm supposed to do. Or, you know, I should probably have like a nice looking body. And I hated every single second of it. It just drained me. But after some further thought, I realized actually, being the happiest version of myself is a really, really important value of me. I want to wake up and I want to feel my best energetically and vibrationally every single day. And so then I did research into what I could do to prioritize that and keep that up. And guess what? A huge part of that is exercise, moving your body, something that I dreaded so much in my life. But now that I've tied it to a value, now that I know this is just helping me in my goal to become happier, to live a more fulfilling life, to be a fully functioning human being because I'm moving, I'm getting fresh air, I go to the gym happily every single day because it's tied to that core value, because I know it's getting me ahead on my mission in life for where I want to be. And next up is lesson number 6, which is that healing isn't about feeling better. It's about feeling more. I think a lot of us associate healing with we're going to feel better and we're going to be happy all of the time and all of the pain is going to be gone. But I don't think that's true, because the biggest core component of healing that arguably takes up the most amount of time is being aware of your emotions and then processing them. And then most importantly, allowing yourself to feel them, which means sitting in them, like allowing yourself to cry, allowing yourself to feel the anger. Not just numbing your emotions, ignoring them, pushing them away because you don't like the way they make you feel, or you feel like they're slowing you down, or they're too messy, or they're getting in the way. True healing can only ever happen when you are so fully immersed and aware of what your emotions are, what they've been caused by, how they are making you feel, what thoughts they are bringing up, because that's where the most self-discovery begins. And when you learn more about yourself, you know which direction you want to go in, what things are holding you back, you know, what you need to incorporate in order to get rid of the conflicting emotions or conflicting thoughts that are holding you back on your journey. And this realization has helped me so much because it's allowed me to forge a much healthier relationship with my emotions. I used to believe other people when they said that crying and feeling sad means that you are sensitive, but it's not. It's not. Like, I question that and I repositioned my belief on that, and I will cry at any given moment. If I feel those tears well up in my eyes, I allow them to flow, because I know that I'm processing my emotions. I'm not going to hold them in here and then they're going to come out at any given moment, or those negative thoughts or those sad thoughts are going to linger in my mind for the rest of the week because I didn't let them out. No, now I know when I let these tears out, I'm giving it away. I'm letting myself move on from it. But also I feel so much more energized and so much lighter once I've let it come out, once I've processed it. I also have much more clarity once I've let the anger come out or let the tears come out, because now I have a clearer mind in understanding what caused that emotion in the first place, rather than coming at it from a super emotional place because I'm filled with the emotion, because I'm not letting it out. I'm not letting myself feel it. And that has been such a key part of healing for me, because it allowed me to break this dangerous, insecure cycle where I was numbing things and I was avoidant of these emotions and I was running away from them. And finally, healing lesson number 7. Your triggers can tell you a whole lot about yourself. I briefly mentioned this a little bit earlier, but honestly, one of the biggest lessons I learned on my journey was your triggers are everything, and they really tell you what parts of yourself you have not allowed yourself to accept, or parts of yourself that you deem unworthy or unattractive to other people. So you hide them away, or you act in a way that you think is acceptable. And then when you see somebody else out here acting in the way that you thought was wrong and that you think people are going to judge you for or dislike you for, you cannot help but judge it or feel annoyed by it or irritated, or like you just can't take your eyes off it because you're like, well, that's just wrong, because you haven't given yourself that inner acceptance to be whoever you want to be in whatever capacity you want to be, to the point that you can't even let a stranger be that way. A lot of the time, that's why we see so many people on social media hating, because even for somebody posting a video, like, people have been told that, well, that's cringy. You know, they've internalized the opinions of all of their peers in school that, well, posting videos online is weird, or like being so obsessed with your appearance is just embarrassing. And instead of questioning those beliefs, they've internalized them and they've used it as this measure of how cool they are or how they are perceived by others. And so they can't comprehend when other people are doing that with such confidence because they haven't given themselves permission to do so. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate when I say that. I'm sure you can understand, oh, that's why people are mean. That's why people bully others. And that's why it's so important to be self-aware and to really acknowledge, okay, why am I being judgmental? If somebody hasn't actually done something to me, why am I giving them some sort of negative energy, or why am I feeling this hostility towards them? That's not actually fair. What is this telling me about myself? And it's really uncomfortable and it's really horrible to know that you are that person that's being unfair or giving bad energy, and you aren't even consciously trying to. But that is where the true work and the true healing begins. When you are looking at the things that aren't very nice to look at, that's where the most progress is going to be made. So my biggest piece of advice is, instead of trying to avoid the trigger, instead of trying to run away from the things that bother you or the people that you don't necessarily like, I would say just a couple of times actively, like consciously choose to put yourself in that situation, but just try to have a different mindset. Just challenge yourself to look at it a little bit differently and see where it might get you, or put yourself in that situation, come away from it, and then start to question why certain things triggered you. Why were certain conversations, like why were you taking more note of that? Why did certain things upset you? Why could you not be in that environment? It's going to teach you so much about yourself. And like I said before, self-discovery and learning things about yourself is where the most healing happens. That's where you uncover all of the parts of yourself that have been suppressed or hidden away and that you didn't even know, because we're so consumed by our daily life and just getting through our to-do list that we're not even aware of these little parts of ourselves that are actually subconsciously holding us back constantly. I honestly think your triggers can tell you so much about where you are at in your healing journey, especially when you might have judged a certain group of people or a certain hobby or a certain way of doing things in the past, and now you find yourself being more accepting, or just taking a step back and not needing to have an opinion on everything, because you look at something and you might have a little bit of irritation, but then you're like, actually, that's okay. And if I want to do that, then that's also okay. That's where the self-love and self-compassion and self-acceptance comes into play. And that brings us to the end of this episode. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did and you're on YouTube, please comment down below and let me know what you enjoyed, because it always helps me create better, more detailed, more value-based content for you all that is really, really gonna help and benefit you. Like I said before, please check all the links out in the description, because not only can you see all my socials, but I'm working on a few different things right now. Just take a note to always check in the description, because those new things might be popping in there soon. Okay, you might be the first to know. So yeah, but I will see you guys same time next week on Wednesday for a brand new podcast episode. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I hope this added to your day. I hope this inspired you in some way. I hope this gave you an idea. I hope that this was just a nice, reassuring, comforting conversation for you to have been listening in on. And I love that you gave me some of your time today in hearing what I have to say. I appreciate you all so much, and I will see you next time. Bye.